Well, welcome everyone. I'm Will Hennigan. This is Norm Byers. Thank you all who were able to come out yesterday to hear Jamie's message on Acts 2, chapter 2, verses 42 through, I believe it was 47. One of the things that I really liked, the 3 points that Jamie brought out in this passage were unity, commitment, and mission. And in this passage, it talks a lot about what the apostles and the believers did once they received the Holy Spirit, how the church came together. And it was just a great picture of what happens when God's body really is obedient to the Holy Spirit and really takes big steps forward. But Norm, one of the things in this passage, and I'm sure some people thought it talks about all the believers bringing all their possessions, giving up everything. Some people may think, well, that sounds kind of socialistic or communistic. Yeah. Explain that, because I want to make sure that everyone really understands this passage from what the standpoint was when hearing the apostles.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you didn't get a chance to hear Jamie's message, Jamie Woodall's message yesterday, you can catch it on iTunes or on the website there. I really encourage you to do that. But what does it mean for us? I think starting with what it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean communism. It doesn't mean in that kind of a government structure, it's kind of enforced that you bring, you sell property, you bring it for the common good. If you've seen the new movie that's out based on the novel from 1957, Atlas Shrugged, it's kind of that same idea where the government is forcing all the rich people to, contribute and to sell their if they have more than one business and things of this nature. And that's kind of a government philosophy, I guess you might say. But what you find in the early church, you don't find the apostles mandating that. You find people doing that volitionally, out of their own free will. They're like realizing the need that others have. And there was in northern Michigan, we often talk about the haves and the have-nots. And give that a 10 power, exponentially, even more so in those days where you have the very rich and the very, very, very poor. And so those people at that time, they were really prompted to be generous and to lay those dollars at the apostles' feet. That may happen in this day. I mean, we're in some big projects at Genesis, the Genesis Center. We've got the church plant in Harbor Springs and lots of other things that we talk about. And quite honestly, it's going to take someone and someones to really go to that kind of level of, maybe selling something they have and giving it so that these projects can happen. So what I'm saying here isn't to say that won't happen, but it's just to say that that's not a mandated thing. That is communism. That is a socialistic structure. This was free will. And if you want proof of that, you go to Acts chapter 5 just a little bit later. I won't read the passage, but it's about a couple named Ananias and Sapphira. And you'll have to read about what happens. But they sell a piece of property, and they brought most of it to the apostles' feet. They said they brought it all. And so Peter says, why did you lie? It was yours to do with what you wanted, and so you can check that out there in chapter 5. But the other thing, so it's volitional. It's generosity isn't forced on someone. Generosity is something that your heart does because you want to, and that's what you find in the early church. Second thing there is it's descriptive. We mentioned this yesterday, that this is a description of what happened. So it's not like you have to do this in order to be a good church. It's like, no, it's like we need to discern. We need to figure out. We need to walk with God and really have all of our possessions understanding they're His and let Him direct us. And then He'll do that, and then we need to take courageous steps. So it might be selling a piece of property like they did in the early church, or it might be doing something different. It might be starting to tithe, something like that. But Will, I kind of wanted to put you on the hot seat now and just say, we have this description like we just talked about, and we have, they studied the apostles' teaching, they prayed, they broke bread, they if anybody had need, they gave them money and this kind of a thing. For you, you're really, you're starting a new congregation. And it's so exciting. I'm so blessed and praying for you guys and just excited about what's going to happen. But what does that community that we find there, that was unified, committed, and on a mission. For you, what does that look like today, right now, like Harbor Springs wise? I mean, but it could be transferable anywhere. But what does it look like for you now?
Right. Well, for Holly and I, it really started off with us opening our home to friends and people that we cared about, and trying to do our best to demonstrate the love of God to them. And what I see with the community, the church that we're trying to plant in Harbor Springs is really opening ourselves to the work and the power of the Holy Spirit to direct us which way we should go. And I believe a lot of that is going to be relationally connecting with people that are already in our lives, and taking bold steps to be able to invest in those relationships to see fruit of what God may bring out of those people's lives. So in a sense, it's really using what God has given us from a relational standpoint, and also it'll be from resources standpoint, but really from a relational standpoint, and using that for the good of God's glory.
Well, one thing that I think too, in addition to that great missional living, which I just admire Will and Holly, and I just please, if we all just put that temperature up just a little bit, it would make such a huge difference in our community. But just the camaraderie with other followers that is there, that you find in the early church, that they were egging each other on to greater things. And it was like, we believe this together. And there's something in that, that when you're a part of, when you're connected with other people in a mission that's bigger than you, it just has, just a kind of power and an excitement. And this is what it's all about, is us joining together, really being unified around a mission, being committed to it, and then just going out and seeing it done, and then coming back to share the stories. And at the one gathering coming up, we're going to have some time where we're going to share, we're going to celebrate. So I really want to encourage people to be out for that. So we're going to wrap this up right now, the Monday morning wrap here, Monday morning quarterback, but Will's going to be teaching this Sunday. I want to encourage you to come on out. And Will, what passage can they read to get kind of prepared for?
Actually, the message is going to be on chapter 4 of Acts, but if you really want to get prepared, we're kind of jumping over chapter 3 to chapter 4, and I'm going to describe it a little bit on Sunday. But if you want to read Acts chapter 3 to see what happens with Peter and John, it'll really set up the message for this coming Sunday when I dive into chapter 4. So Acts chapter 3 would be a great place to start if you want to prepare for this week.
All right, I'm going to wrap us up. And you've heard me say this before. Don't just go to church. Be the church. Let's be the church in this community, in our great community. Have a great one.